So there is a silent rebellion happening. Rather, no, it's pretty public now, but there is a rebellion happening in the unconscious, guys. And this rebellion is straight up just exclusion of the creator. It's like we are in a battle. We are in a real battle. And why am I talking about this today? Because I've really seen the problem now. I'm seeing that we are in a time where we have humanity have forgotten the creator, or have turned our back against the creators, and instead of following the creator's pattern and the creator's will and living a life of inclusion, there is a pattern that is in the unconscious it's so strong. It's like a gravitational pull towards selfishness and forgetfulness and denial of even of an existence of the creator. I've found in my own unconscious the very rebellious entity or rebellious enemy that is working a narrative in the unconscious that is and is real, guys. This thing is real. Like it actively has a narrative. It's like putting a virus into a computer, which is our minds, and its virus is to forget who you are, to turn against the creator, to forget the creator. It has a narrative of not the creator's will be done, but its will be done. Meaning it's a God onto itself, that it lives without the creator. It does not include the creator in its life. And those patterns are the patterns of an entity that some call the Antichrist, some people call the devil, some people call Lucifer, some people call all kind of names. They're different forces. There's Lucifer, there's Antichrist forces. I've seen both of them, and they are actively working in the unconscious for people to turn their back against the source. Now, how do I know this as true, as happening right now? Is because I've seen it in myself, where this thing is operating in the unconscious, where I've noticed, like for me personally, where I would just be on this busy spiral, and I've been noticing like, oh wow, where is the creator? Like my mind is not on the creator. You know, like this happened, right, one time, and I was like, why don't I feel a pull or desire? Like I was assessing my desire to follow the creator's will and to have an intimate relationship with the creator. Because if you look at the desire, you'll know where you stand. How much do I desire the creator? Am I head over heels in love? Like, how much do I want the creator in my life? Am I spending time with the creator? Do I want to know his will? Do I have a burning desire to sit at his feet and listen to his wisdom? Do I have a burning desire to follow his guidance over the ego, my personality? Do I, am I in love with the creator's ways and will? And am I following that in all my choices and decisions? Am I seeking to know what the creator's will is for my choice, for the choices I'm making in life? Are we making the choices together, or is my personality making choices on its own? These are questions I'm asking myself. Now, some of the things I've improved on, like, I'm assessing my improvements too. Like, okay, yeah, I do ask questions, and I'm improving and including the creator a lot more than I used to. But today I was just reflecting, because I'm always going deeper. I'm always looking at, where's my commitment? Like, am I all in? Am I all in? And how much am I really all in? And all in is a different level of just somewhat committed to like hot and cold to like all in, like you're my number one priority. And this takes great humility because the ego, the fundamental core of the ego is so prideful, like OMG. Like I was just looking at my own shadow or unconscious or whatever you call it. I was just looking at it. I was like, man, there's a lot of pride in there. And this is not me because I know who I am, my God self. I know my true self, right? I'm talking about the contents of the ego that's running in my personality that is very rebellious towards an authority. And it's a spirit of the Antichrist or the Lucifer patterns, whatever that is I was picking up. It is just rebellion. And the rebellion is it doesn't like that it has an authority, doesn't like that it has to, that its role is to follow, not lead. Okay, let me get this straight, y'all, because the ego personality, there's a mix-up. There's a real mix-up and a real falsehood, all right? That we think that we are, the personality is really the God. It's not. There's a higher power, y'all. There is a higher power. And the truth is, this higher power wants to be part of our lives. High Creator wants to be part of our lives and is meant to be included. It represents our higher intuition and that aspect of us that is love and kindness and patience and those virtues. And it actively wants to be part of our lives. Yet the personality there's a conflict. It's like you got the higher will, the higher self, and then you got the ego will. And there's a clash because ego don't want to follow the higher self will. It's not including the higher self will. It doesn't even want to know the Creator's will. There's no relationship with the higher self. Like the pattern of our collective and a lot of people is to live life without the Creator. Some people may say they're following God, but a lot of people aren't. There are very few. There's one person I know, only one, that I know that has mastered this really well and that is so committed. And the one thing I've noticed about this person is she has great humility. In order to come to a place of great submission to the Creator's will, this is my realization because I'm studying this, because I'm like, what do I need to do to go from A to B? How do I get to this complete devotion and faithfulness? How do I get to this place of absolute thy will be done? Like Eve or the divine feminine. How do we get to that place of alignment with the Creator, the higher self, where the higher self is leading in our choices, our behaviors, our actions, where the higher self in us is making decisions instead of the personality making decisions without the source? You see, that is so major and big. You know why? Because when the ego leads without the Creator, it is so blinded by its own limited perceptions that what it's doing is saying that it created itself, that it doesn't need the Creator, it doesn't need God, that it can live without the higher intelligence that's running its heartbeat, that's running the very breath of life that gives us life. The ego is rejecting the source, and that is harmful to the ego itself, and it's harmful to the soul. Because when we reject the source, we are rejecting the life force that's running through us, the light of God. We're rejecting that which we are. And that causes depression. It can cause people to lose their connection. I've felt it too. Like whenever there's a disconnection, there is this cloudiness and lack of clarity, and decision making is not done properly. It's not the best decisions. Like I've noticed when I'm connected to higher self, my intuition's on point. I'm making choices that are my best and highest good, etc., etc., etc. But when it's not, and the ego wants to make choices, and I've tested this, all right, and failed. I could tell this right now. I have made choices where the higher self told me, no, and I did not follow. Okay? And I reaped the consequences of that, and it was not the greatest. The higher self's will and decision making is full of wisdom and knows what's best for us. The ego decision making is built on selfishness and its limited perception of truth, and so it cannot see all possibilities. The higher self will can. And so when we're working with divine intelligence and we're utilizing our creative forces and our free will choices with the beloved, with providence, with higher intelligence, we can co-create something greater, which is in a pure heart, pure intent, and we can create a better future because it's built from the higher intelligence, not from the ego intelligence. So I have asked myself the other day, I was like, Chie, why would we follow the ego intelligence over divine intelligence? Like, why would we want to follow personality? And it's because this is how we've been conditioned. This is kind of like the analogy of the master and the butler in the Bible or something like that. I don't read the Bible as much. I'm not necessarily biblical or religious or anything. I'm just like totally like all about one love source, God being just, and I read biblical texts. I read texts from all religion. Like, I'm just all about the truth. That's all I want. Okay. I read from different sources. It could be Buddhism. I don't know, wherever it is. I just put it together, whatever resonates with my truth and the soul and the truth of God. That's what I care about. So, but there is a part in the Bible that talks about the master and the butler. And it makes sense because there is a higher power that created humanity. There's a higher power that created life. And to exclude that, to exclude the higher power and exclude our higher selves is really, it's a betrayal. It's a betrayal. It's a betrayal because it's turning against the natural order, and it's turning against our first love. And that pattern that does that is not who we are. It is an antichrist pattern. An antichrist pattern is anti-love because the creator is love. Therefore, if we're not following creator, what are we following? Who are we following? You know what I mean? So back to this reflection I've been having, which is taking my relationship with the creator to another level of intimacy, because there's some block there. I have something wrong with there. Something's going on there. I'm working through this one, which is trust. Because, and this requires humility, because when I'm giving up the will to God, I'm saying thy will be done. I'm taking away this control freak that I got, where I have to like control stuff, right? And like make decisions for my life without God, rather of making decisions on my own. It's just including now. You say, hey, beloved creator, I have this choice to make. What are your thoughts here? We work as a team in collaboration. And instead of like, you don't matter to me, I don't need you, it's I need you. You matter to me. Our relationship matters. Let's have a relationship here. Let's go. I want to go deeper. And having a relationship with the creator, people, is possible. It's like Jesus the Christ. He had an intimate relationship with the creator. This is the same relationship that we're all designed to have, because we're one with the creator. We're meant to have that level of intimacy and connection where we can communicate with the creator. All right, where it's like a friendship or a love relationship that you have. You can talk to someone like a friend anytime. It's supposed to be that type of harmony and connection where the relationship is so fluid and accessible, where creator is not inaccessible, where we can only have conversations through someone else. No, each one of us has that ability to connect and to have that relationship directly with the source. So, and meant to be intimate, an intimate, loving one, where the creator is part of our lives. And but to get there, there's a sacred work that has to be done, y'all. Like, I'm seeing that For me, that's what I'm realizing. Like, there are forces in the unconscious. There's conditioning, programming in our unconscious that is blocking our connection with the source. And I'm also noticing that even in myself, like I've been hammering in on the pattern of pride, and and my goal, my intention is to transform into humility. This is what I want. It's a submission. It's thy will be done. In order to come to that place, I'm starting to see that there are forces that are completely in antithesis to that in the unconscious. There's a force in there, entity, that does not want an authority over itself. It wants to make its own decisions. It wants power. It doesn't like giving up the will. It wants to make its own decisions. I'm like, why would you want to do that? You got the higher intelligence, the higher intuition. Why would you want to rely on your own intelligence? And that type of consciousness is coming from us ego consciousness. So, the cause and effect of this, guys, and I'm seeing it, is like where we are in humanity, as you see, many don't have a relationship with God. Not a lot of people. Some people do. I don't know, but I know some people don't. A lot of people don't. And we live life without God, and we see why there's why we have a world that we're in right now. Because, if we had leaders and people in the world that follow the Creator's will, we would have a whole different society right now. We would have a whole different economy right now. We would have a whole different way we treat the planet. We would have just a whole different world, But the consequence of following ego intelligence is what leads us to the current situation we're in right now as a humanity. And the consequences are dire, because when we follow an ego that excludes God, then we reap the consequences, and they're painful. They're painful. It's painful. It's painful. Because now you see depression on the rise, suicide on the rise. You see natural disasters on the rise. Now you see earthquakes coming in. You got like tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, all kinds of stuff happening, guys. Because people are asleep, and I'm fighting. Let me tell you something. Every day is a battle, all right, to stay awake, because the forces of the Antichrist are on the go. And they are trying to have people fall asleep and to follow the pattern of the Antichrist, which is to exclude God, and to follow the pattern of hate, and to follow the pattern of treating oneself with hate or anger, or hating on another, or anger on another. Or not that anger is bad, but when you use anger on another person, that's toxic. So anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But this is like a deep realization I'm having, which is doing the sacred work of waking up, and also remembering the Creator during this time, because there's the only anchor we have is the Beloved, and His unconditional love, that no matter where we're coming from, no matter the mistakes we've made, that His love is always there for us to redeem us. The forgiveness is available to redeem us. And all it takes is just asking. And we have that, we're being loved and supported to come back home to who we are. Because our home is love, and our home is truth. And that truth is liberating and empowering and sets us free. Like, the Creator's will is for us to live life abundantly, and to live a different life than what we see on this planet. And the only way to do that is to trust to walk and pick up His hand and say, lead me, because the ego does not know. Lead us, lead me, guide me, help me to fulfill my purpose, whatever your prayer is. My prayer is to be free, to come home to the Creator in a state of devotion and humility, so that I'm walking with the Creator in every choice, because I have to acknowledge the limitations of my ego. The ego doesn't like to acknowledge its limitations, that it is not the ultimate higher power. It wants to be some high up there God, but it ain't. Like, acknowledging our limitation and our dependency upon the Creator is an act of humility. It is that devotion. It is that willingness to surrender, that pride that I don't need God is the belief that it has, but rather come back to that dependency and that reliance upon the source like we once had. Anyway, I may have to go soon. I just wanted to say this is the journey I'm on, guys. I'm hoping, I wish you all the best with yours, following the Creator, returning home, coming back to who we are, all that goodness, and cultivating humility to come back home to God. I'm going to have another video on that because that one's really, really deep. All right, y'all. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave that below. And if you want to subscribe, feel free to do so. I'd love you to join the, conversation. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Namaste.